We're pleased to join you guys in Phoenix from here inside the room, and luckily I'm joined by astronaut Al Drew, who's got a lot of experience up in space. He's been in space twice. He's flown on 2 space shuttle missions to that International Space Station, STS-118 and STS-133. Once aboard Space Shuttle Endeavour, and then he also flew on the last flight of Discovery before it was retired along with the other 2 space shuttles. So Al has a tremendous amount of experience in space flight and knows what life is like on board the International Space Station, and in fact here in the flight control room he supported flights from in here as well. So welcome Phoenix and Monterey Park. We're happy to be with you guys.
Have you as our guest today. Thank you so much for your time. And Liberty here is the first person that's going to be asking you a question.
Okay. What sports do you play in space?
What sports do you play in space? Oh, let's see. We have a basketball hoop on board the space station. Most of our Europeans come up with soccer balls. It's very easy to make bicycle kicks when you're on board the space station as well. But we also play games like tag as well.
Do you have access to the social media, online, video games?
Yes, we do. We actually, in the past few years, have gotten live internet on board the space station, so we can access Facebook and Twitter. I don't know if anybody who plays the video games. I didn't see anybody when I was up there doing it at the time, but that may be because we're a little bit too old for that. I'm sure that as we get newer and younger astronauts on, they'll be playing things like World of Warcraft on the space station as well.
Do you get scared every time when you board into the spacecraft?
Do you get scared? Yes, there's an element of danger involved with the spacecraft. Anybody who's not a little bit worried about that probably doesn't understand what's going on. There's a lot of energy involved with getting yourself to Earth orbit. You're going 25 times the speed of sound. That's about 12 times faster than a speeding bullet. And so it's a lot of energy has to go into that. And so it's a good thing. It makes us very careful and very safe, and we pay a lot of attention to what we're doing when we're going to and from space. And I think a little bit of anxiety helps you to keep you engaged with that.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Diana. My question is, how likely does space elevator?
Hi, Diana. How likely is a space elevator? I think it's likely. The question more is, when do we get a space elevator, not will we ever have one? We worked out the physics of it a long time ago. It actually does work in theory. However, it takes some very strong materials to build that space elevator. I don't think we have those materials quite yet, but I think that we can get there at some point. I don't think it's anywhere near impossible. Mm-hmm.
Hi, I'm Steve. How long does travel time to the space station?
How long does it take to get into space? If you're on a shuttle, it takes about 8.5 minutes. And so think about that. You're sitting on the ground at 0 feet of altitude, sitting right at sea level, doing 0 miles per hour. And 8.5 minutes later, you are 100 miles up, going at 17,500 miles per hour. So it makes for a very exciting 8.5 minute ride.
Yeah, he also asked, how long does it take to get to the space station, too?
Oh,
so in
okay.
addition to that.
Okay, so once we get to space, there's the trekking into the space station. Now, if we really needed to get there very, very quickly, which we don't typically, it wouldn't take much longer to get to the space station, maybe another 45 minutes. However, because the way we do our rendezvous, we don't like just run up to the space station and stand on the brakes because you don't want to hit the space station. So we usually will spend a couple of days getting to the space station, going through checkouts, making sure our spacecraft works okay. But when it's time to come back from the space station, when it comes time to land, by the time we undock, within an hour and a half, we're back on the ground.
That's a great question.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Michael, and my question is, how often do you travel to space?
question is, how often do you travel to space? Depends on the astronaut, depends on the time you're here. It typically, when things are very, very busy, when during this times of the space shuttle program, you could count on going into space about once every 2 to 4 years. With the shuttle retired and going to the space station, the training alone takes anywhere between 2.5 to 4 years, depending on what you're training for. So it would probably be maybe even 5 years now between space station missions if you're on one of the busier schedules.
Hi, my name is D'Angelo, and how do you manage waste in space?
Hi, D'Angelo. That's a very important question. One of the things that you don't think about is the fact that when you're in space, first off, getting things is tough to do. You know, you can't run down to your local store and get groceries or go to the hardware store and get replaced. So you have to bring everything up there with you. And everything you get rid of, there's no garbage truck that comes by every Tuesday and Thursday and takes away your stuff. But we do have garbage trucks there to the space station. The Progress capsules take away most of our garbage right now, and it burns up in the atmosphere. So I think every 90 days or so, a new Progress comes in, so we'll unpack it. It has all of our fresh groceries and supplies, and as soon as we've got it empty, we start putting all of our old trash in there, and when the new one comes up, we undock it, and we let it burn up in the atmosphere.
Thank you.
Good question.
Where do you get water?
Water. That's another very important question. Because it's probably the most important thing we have on space station. That's our resource. If we didn't have a regular supply of anything, if all of our supplies stopped today, if nobody took anything else up there, probably the first thing we would run out of would be water, even before we'd run out of air. And so water is very important to all of us, and we have just offices full of people here at Johnson Space Center who watch our water budgets and figure out how we're going to get our water. Now, again, back in the days of the space station, our fuel cells, which made electricity for the space shuttle, actually made hundreds of gallons of water as a waste product. The cleanest water you could possibly ever find would come out of these fuel cells, and we would take them and pipe them over to the space station. So that water was never an issue. Now we have the Progress capsules and other resupply vehicles, and they bring up tanks of water with them, and we conserve our water. But our life support systems now are much more miserly. We waste a lot less water. It used to be, if the water was dirty, we didn't care much about recycling. We would just dump the dirty water overboard. Now we scrub and purify and recycle as much of that water as we possibly can, because we don't have shuttles coming up every few weeks with hundreds of gallons of water to donate.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, I'm Brooklyn. How do you guys keep yourself clean in space?
Hi, Brooklyn. Keeping clean in space, something very near and dear to my heart, because I spent a total of 26 days in space. Obviously, the things you do on the ground here don't quite work in space. Much of what you do in the bathroom, the shower, and clean up needs gravity for the water to come across your body out of the spigot and go down the drain. That doesn't work in space. Now, any water you would shoot out of a nozzle would stay right there with you, and along with the dirt that came off of you. So rather than hop into a shower or a bathtub, we take sponge baths. If you've ever been camping, you know what it's like to go out there and just get a towel or something wet and wipe yourself down. Clean that off, and then rinse yourself off with another towel that doesn't have the soap on it. And so it's very good at keeping you clean, but not nearly as satisfying as, say, just a hot shower. And you'll find most astronauts, when they get back down on the ground, no matter how long they've been in space, will go hop in the shower for 30 to 45 minutes because they miss the sensation of just having a hot shower.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hello, my name is Jennifer.
Hi, Jennifer.
My question is, what is your favorite food?
What's my favorite food? It depends from day to day. Well, I'm here in Texas. I like a lot of Cajun food, things like gumbo, but also like barbecue. And imagine if I lived somewhere else, I would eat something else differently. But that's what they make best around here, and they do a very good job of it.
What about, that's a good question, because we've always heard that in space your taste buds tend to change.
Yeah.
What do you have a favorite food when you were flying?
Can shift in space. Now, some people debate that. They say they've been in space and their tastes don't shift. And for me, my taste did shift on my first mission, but it wasn't consistent. It didn't happen again on my second mission. One of the things on space, when I was on my shuttle mission, we had these string beans with mushrooms. And I eat string beans. I don't hate string beans, but I probably wouldn't go 5 steps out of my way to get a bowl of string beans anywhere on here on Earth. I know they're good for me, and that's why I eat them. I craved string beans when I was on orbit, and I was trading away all my beef jerky, which I love here on Earth, to get all the string beans that I could possibly get my hands onto. So I pretty much ate the entire shuttle supply of string beans in order to get them all. And but I went back a second time. I thought I'd crave them again, and I didn't. I didn't hate them, but they were just string beans at that point. So who knows? That's but science out there waiting to find out is why your taste might change on orbit and why they wouldn't.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, my name is Tai Tong. My question is, what hobbies do you have while in space?
What hobbies do you have while in space? It just depends on the astronaut and how long they're up there. If you're on a shuttle crew, there's not much time for hobbies. It's a very busy time. You're just running very quickly for the 2-week mission that you're there. The space station crews have a little bit more free time, and they do take up hobbies. Probably the most popular hobby in space is taking pictures of the Earth. We spend a lot of time with just top-notch photography instructors, and we have some of the best photography equipment you can imagine. And one of the most interesting things to look at when you're up in space, about 250 miles up, is the planet beneath us, looking at oceans and reefs and mountain ranges and volcanoes and hurricanes and everything else you can imagine that goes on here back on Earth is photography. Now, some people have built ships and bottles, and they like also using playing with ham radios to talk to school children just like you on the ground. And so those are things that we do to take up our time.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, my name is Andrew, and my question is, what kind of pets do you think will survive in that environment?
Hi, Andrew. I think most pets would survive in space. We've taken up all types of animals, not as pets, from mice and other things like that, and they seem to work just fine. Like anybody, they're a little bit disoriented when we first take them to orbit because there's no up or down. But one thing I noticed with the mice that we carried up with us was after about a day or two, they were doing the same stupid astronaut tricks that we were doing. Running around, bouncing off the edge of the cages, and smacking each other in the head, and just doing goofy things that you would do when you realize how much fun it is being weightless. So I think most pets would do just fine in space.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, my name is Gael. My question is, what type of physical activities do you do in space?
Yeah, good.
It's another very good question, something that we do worry about. Now, one of the things to remember in space when you're weightless is that just sitting in your chair or standing there like you are talking to me, you're getting more of a workout than you would just floating in space. Just think about it. Your head has weight, and your neck has to hold your head up. Your legs and your feet have to hold the rest of your body up. Just lifting up your arm, just moving your arms takes effort. And when you're in space, those muscles don't work anymore. And so what we find out is that after a few days in space, your muscles begin to waste away because your body is efficient, which is my code word for saying very lazy. It doesn't support things it doesn't have to. And your bones start to dissolve away too because bones are there to support the muscles. So in order to keep that from happening, because eventually you do come back to Earth and you want to be able to walk around, our astronauts will exercise for as much as 2.5 hours a day. And so they're on these weightlifting machines. Obviously, weights don't work because it's weightless, but you can have resistance machines that simulate those weights. We have treadmills and we have bicycles as well, so you can keep your heart pumping as well. And so you keep your physical conditioning while you're in space. In fact, a lot of astronauts come back in better shape from being in space than they do on the ground because they have scheduled 2.5 hours of time to work, and we don't get that much time here on the ground.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you keep a greenhouse in the space station, and how?
Do we keep a greenhouse in the space station? Yes, we do. We have plant growth experiments, and we grow things there with lights and hydroponics and all kinds of other things like that. And so we've grown like radishes, and we've actually, I think, even managed to eat some of those things that we've grown in space. But everybody seems to enjoy doing gardening in space. It's one of the better pastimes, even if it's supposed to be an experiment. It's also fun.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, my name is Fernando, and my question is, can you control gravity in your cabin?
The question is, can you control gravity in your cabin? Theoretically, yes. In practice, we really don't. What you can do is you can spin your cabin so it behaves like a centrifuge. Years ago, we actually thought about putting a centrifuge aboard the space station, because one of the few things you can do in space that you can't do here on Earth is simulate gravities that are between 0 and 1. So Earth is always at 1 gravity, and only for brief periods of time, maybe seconds, if you're doing a parabola in space over the Earth, can you get yourself to less than 1 Earth gravity in terms of force. If you're in space and you've got no gravity acting on you because you're in free fall, you can simulate half of Earth's gravity. You can simulate Mars's gravity, which is about 38% of Earth's gravity, or even Moon's gravity, or just 16% of Earth's gravity. And so you can control it in that aspect, but we don't have any means of doing that right now on board our space station.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, my name is Alex, and I want to know, how do you guys power the ISS?
Hi, Alex.
Question.
That's also a very good question. One of the things the way we power the International Space Station is by solar arrays. You see those giant solar arrays you see out there, those 8 of them out there. It's an acre of solar arrays, and I think it gathers somewhere in the order of 80 kilowatts of power. And that's about enough that a city block's worth of homes there in Phoenix would use about 80 kilowatts worth of power. And so really our power source is the sun. And I remember when I was on the space shuttle, we would go and plug into the space station and use their power. And I always kind of giggles. I thought we were stealing power from the sun on board our space shuttle.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, my name is Fernando, and I want to know, what is the possibility of space tourism in the future?
It's another good question. The possibility of space tourism in the future. Well, space tourism is now. We've actually had a number of space tourists go to the International Space Station over the past few years. I believe the Russians are actually planning on carrying up another space tourist in a few years from now. Now they have some extra capacity on their line for the Soyuz capsules. Here in America, we have a number of companies building spacecraft specifically for space tourism. Some of them will take you in space for maybe 4 or 5 minutes, where you can be weightless and float your M&Ms, whatever you want to put out in front of you, and get some pictures and be back on Earth. Or you can actually have ones that will take you up for weeks in space in orbit. And so I think by the time you're able to afford going into space, we'll have lots of people out there willing to carry you up to space to go be a tourist.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
My name is Liberty, and another question I would like to ask: how long do you think astronauts possibly live and work in space?
The question is, how long do you think astronauts can live and work in space? And that's something that's been on my mind for about the last year. I've been working over in a program called the Deep Space Habitat Project, and we've been thinking about taking spacecraft out to places like asteroids and even the planet Mars, and some of those missions are very long. They can be as much as 900 to 1,500 days away from Earth. And so the question is, like, can people survive for that amount of time out there in space? And if so, what do we need to go about doing? And so there's big challenges out there. One of the bigger ones is radiation in deep space. Our Earth and its atmosphere and its magnetic field protect us from a lot of radiation that comes from the center of our galaxy. And so if we're going to go out beyond the Earth's magnetic field, we are going to be subject to radiation such that we probably wouldn't stay out there for more than 6 months right now without some type of shielding or ways of deflecting it, or maybe creating our own magnetic field. Another thing is weightlessness. We know even with all of our exercises, we're not doing things that stimulate our inner ear to give us balance. And so that sense goes away, and it takes a while. The longer you're in space, the longer it takes to bring that back. So we may have to do things like bring about artificial gravity, like one of your fellow classmates brought up, so we can have some way of doing that. Food, because we don't have a way to cook in 0G, we have to prepare all food here on Earth and basically make TV dinners out of them. Some of those lose their nutrients after about a year, and so they're not they don't give you everything you need. So the idea is, how do we make food that keeps that nutrition? Or I'd like to see if somebody come up with a way of cooking in zero gravity. Go out there and just give me things like oats and flour and water and eggs and things like that, and I can go whip up something right in my own kitchen there in 0G. So those things we need to think about for keeping people in space. But up to date, we've had a person in space for 400 days on order of that, and in a short time, we'll have another crew that will stay up on the space station for about a year. So that's the limit right now, is about a year, and I think it'll take some new technologies for us to go in space longer than that, especially deep space outside of the Earth's magnetic field.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
My name is Susan. My question is, What is your most unforgettable moment while living in space?
Great question.
Good question, Susan. That's also a very difficult question to answer because there are a number of unforgettable moments in space. But I'll share this one secret. You can't tell anybody about this, okay? We were undocked from the International Space Station on the final flight of the Space Shuttle Discovery. And one of the things we have to do before we come in and land is use the robot arm and a camera to look for any holes that may have been poked into the orbiter by any debris that was floating around in space. And so we have this camera, and it's a very slow and painstaking process while you look, but it's very important to go do. And so we're very methodical, very disciplined. Anybody who's not part of it doesn't need to be on the flight deck. And we go through this in a step-by-step process, also very tiring. So 2 people have to do it, but 3 of us kind of rotate through. And so I just got done with my half hour of helping out with this, and I was just resting my eyes looking out the window. And we were coming up on the west coast of Australia over the Indian Ocean, and I saw a faint green glow down beneath me, and almost at the same tone of voice I'm talking right now, it's like, wow, that looks like an aurora down there. And almost immediately, the commander and the pilot who were working the inspection stopped the arm and put a brakes on, and they said, "Did you say Aurora?" And all the other crew members come flooding up from the mid deck, and we've got cameras, and usually we're very calm. If you've ever seen Apollo 13, you always have to be very calm about things, and it's just chaos. We're screaming, we're trying to find lenses, we're trying to get the right angle, we're trying to get the right exposure. It was just madness for about 5 minutes, and we get over the Aurora, and we get these breathtaking shots, and then we're over top of Australia, and everybody kind of like goes. Insanity prevailed again. We got to clean everything back up. They went back down the mid-deck. They weren't doing the inspection, and we went back to finishing inspecting the orbiter to go back in. But it was a breathtaking moment to be over top these just rivers of green fire that were coming up from the atmosphere, and we're just right over top of it looking down. And as if even from the ground it's impressive, it's even more impressive to be looking at it from above in space. Right. But you can't tell anybody about that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, my name is David. I'm gonna ask a question again.
Okay,
What is
David. I'm sorry.
What is your most favorite site?
What is my most favorite site? I have to tell you that after going to space and looking back, the Earth is my most favorite site from space. Just looking back on it, it's just a beautiful thing to be near. I've thought about what other planets I'd like to be above, but none of them I think would be as interesting as the Earth. Other planets. No other planets I know have any real oceans. The other ones have atmospheres and weather, but they just don't have the color and variety and just the different things that are out there that I think that Earth does. So it took me leaving the Earth for 2 weeks at a time to really appreciate what a gem we have for a planet.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, my name is Joey, and I'm going to ask a question.
Okay,
What
Joey.
are your top issues that you have to deal with in the space station?
What are the top issues we have to deal with in the space station? And again, another very good question. These are the kind of things that flight directors ask about. So you sure you're ready to come down here and work for us?
Flight director in training.
The top issues, the main thing is that, again, we're isolated. And it's not so much by the distance. We're only 250 miles up in space, which is probably less distance between you and the Arizona state border. However, you're separated by speed. 17,500 miles an hour is an incredibly fast speed, so you just don't get there and back very quickly. And so things like water and air and food and science, everything out there has to be imported. I mean, there's really nothing up there in space. You just can't step outside and grab what you need. So that's probably the top issue there. The other part is because of that, we're pack rats. You've seen these hoarding shows. We have our own hoarding problem on the space station because we're afraid of running out of things. So you'll find that every nook and cranny in the space station is just crammed with something that we might need sooner or later. And so as big and palatial as the space station is, finding room for all that stuff is kind of a problem.
All right, this is going to be our final question from the school, please.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Christian.
Hi,
What is next for NASA's space flights?
Great question.
Wow, that is a great question, and that is the $64 million question. What is next for NASA space flights? I said for the foreseeable future, we will continue to operate the International Space Station, which is, like everything NASA has built, incredibly over-engineered and living long past when we thought it would. And so we expect well into the next decade to be operating the space station. Our we will expect to have more commercial partners on board the International Space Station as some of our these commercial space operators get the capability to bring up crew members as well as cargo. They're already bringing up cargo back and forth in the space station. Next thing we'll see is our crew members going to and from the space station on these commercial vehicles. And of course, we're always thinking about interplanetary travel. So we're looking at should we go to asteroids that are near the Earth, and going, of course, I'm always thinking about the red planet. That's the next place I'd like to go see us do in my lifetime. So I think that's out there about the time that you get to sit in Mission Control and talk to students in Phoenix. You'll be talking about that.
Well, thanks,
All
everybody.
right, I'd like to.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, thank you. All right, I'd like to thank you guys for joining us today. Thank you, Kyle, and thank you, Alvin, and then thank you to Monterey Park.
All right.
Well, we're really happy that you guys joined us. That was a great bunch of questions. That's sometimes better than some that we get asked by other folks. So you guys study hard, and we really appreciate you joining us here in Mission Control. Thanks a lot for coming.
Great questions, great conversation. It was good talking to you.